No.
I'm
Beyonce.
just imagine. For those of you who don't know, Joy Clark is up and rising, brilliant singer-songwriter, guitarist, musician. She just recently performed at Jazz Fest, which is why I'm in the great city of New Orleans for this taping. She put on a hell of a performance. She's a famous person. She's continuing going straight to the top, and I would never want to find her on the street high and passed out in a European country.
And also, what she hasn't mentioned is that Joy Clark plays the theme to this.
She wrote, produced, and performed the theme song to this show,
Galaxy Groove. Everybody, I know sometimes folks don't listen to, you know, when the podcast is over, sometimes people just, they cut it off, which everybody does it. But if you listen all the way through the outro, we give credit to Joy Clark for composing the theme. She is a rising star. You will hear about her. She has performed on Jimmy Kimmel, on the Ellen Show, and she also performed at the Pre-Grammy show with Allison Russell. You can find her on Joy Clark Music.
She's on Ellen DeGeneres. She's on Jimmy Kimmel. You should go and vote for her so we can get a Tiny Desk concert for her from NPR.
Yes, Tiny Desk.
Visit joyclarkmusic.com.
Yes, because she has music out there that you can get to. She's on Apple Music. She's on Spotify. She's everywhere. And just go to her website because she's been mentioned in podcasts. She was on Reese Palmer. She's in her class of 2022 country artists or artists of color to look out for. There is content out there by Joy Clark. Welcome to Rappin' Atlanta. I'm Nita Sharice.
And I'm Nikki.
And in this podcast, we have a frank, honest, and open conversation about the FX show Atlanta.
We have noticed that there are similar features in each show, and during our discussion, we offer our impressions on what those features are. There's a That's So Atlanta moment in each episode that most clearly and accurately depicts the spirit or quirk that is Atlanta and life in the American South.
Darius-isms highlight the special flavor the character Darius brings to the show because he is easily one of the most layered, complex, and compelling characters on television.
There always seems to be a mystical element or some strange thing that happens beyond all logical reason and sometimes scientific explanation. We've all experienced those kinds of moments.
And finally, the SGR moment is very plainly the moment in each show when shit got real and we are reminded that life is not a game and desperation has the power to motivate any and every possible action. Today's episode is entitled New Jazz. It was directed by Hiro Murai and written by Donald Glover. After getting high with Darius, Al takes an unsettling journey that finds him second-guessing his entourage choices.
I'm such a fan. Very much a fan. Not so much of Darius anymore, though.
Yeah, I almost thought about starting this episode off the way we started off the one when they were in the one with socks, where we just said, like, fuck socks. So fuck Darius. Not really trusting him. And in saying that, I'm realizing Socks wasn't with them. I don't think I really realized that. Like, that didn't hit me that he wasn't with them last time either. So maybe they saw the light and have dumped him. That just hit me, really. So that's an aside. Like, I didn't realize that. Like, I was distracted by the what was the last one? White Fashion.
Yes.
So they don't have him. And maybe time to not have Darius either, but let's get into it.
All right. So the top of the episode, we find them in a restaurant, Il Panorama, in Amsterdam. And they've eaten breakfast. They are, Ern joins them. And then they talk about, Paperboy brings up, you want to split the check? And Darius asks in that way that people who have no intention of contributing any money to the bill repeats the question.
Like he didn't hear, which is like equivalent to like when some women, not all women, hashtag not all women, go like, oh, and do the fake reach. And it's like, if you're gonna do that fake reach, make sure you have some money, because some people will take you up on that. Like, yeah, okay, go ahead, and you gotta follow up and either reach for your wallet or reach for the dish rag in the kitchen of the restaurant, because you gotta have the money. So yeah, that was annoying, because it's like, oh wow, you have no intention, and then no shame. Once Paperboy like looked obviously aggravated that you had no intention of paying, and then that made me wonder, like, so he must get paid, right? Like when you're in the entourage, you're getting a regular stipend or allowance, right?
I don't know. We were just talking about that before. Like, how does that work? How does it work for your hangers on? You know, because I guess he provides like a therapeutic service to Alfred, in the sense that he's a close friend. He's moral support.
Moral support. We saw when he was in I cannot remember the city that they were in. The city that they were in when you know, when we meet Wiley and we meet Socks and all that. When they were in that city, we saw him doing like the rap god prayer. But even before that, in previous seasons, we at least used to see Darius cooking and, you know, being something of a like a Bentley sort of, which is necessary, you know, like a mixture of like a butler, a body man. Like he did provide something, and he seemed to be a friend, but increasingly I don't see what his value is. And it seemed like, okay, he hasn't really changed, but to me, he is starting to change in that, like, he's less valuable. Like he's still like quirky, random Darius, but the cracks are starting to show in that some of the things that you maybe we used to would write off as like, that's just crazy Darius. Some of his habits are now proving like harmful, you know, or dangerous, you know, like Al loses, well, his phone is stolen and there's no backup because, you know, of Darius's big brother things, whether that's real or not. There's a chunk of information that is unrecoverable because we don't believe in the cloud. And for whatever reason, Al is just cool with like letting that ride, because we also need to like hold Al accountable. Like, dude, you don't have to listen to this dude. Like, you can just say, I'm gonna have a cloud anyway, whatever. Letting people into the inner circle and not being more discerning about who you're letting get close to this person.
Consider, you know, what we've been talking about as far as like Paperboy leveling up, and then who he is surrounding himself with, who he is choosing to listen to and who he's not choosing to listen to. And this episode told me that he is having those same thoughts, you know, as we're wondering, he's also wondering. He's in it, you know, he's living this rapper lifestyle now.
Yeah, like, yeah, we have been saying that from the beginning, from him like needing the money and us thinking, okay, it's for bail. And then he comes out of jail and then tosses it away. And it's like, wait, this is why you want the money, you know? And then in the other episode, Ern giving him some very sound advice. He and Darius clowning him for it, but then him going and being very impressed by all the trappings of wealth, but laughing when he's pretty much told how to get there. And it's so immature. But yeah, that has been a repeated theme along with all the other themes. So this is like a come to Jesus moment.
This having with himself. So it's ironic that Darius is taking them on this trip, because he did need to arrive at this conclusion. By the time we get to the episode, he did need to get there. But like I said, it's ironic that Darius is taking him on this trip, because if he makes the move that I think both you and I believe he should make, then Darius is out of the picture.
And the thing about what Darius tells him too, remember, no matter what happens, I love you.
Yeah.
Which was like, I was like, is he gonna kill him at the end of this episode? Like, is this the last episode? It's like, what the hell is happening?
If Darius truly has any spiritual awareness, he's I'm surely he sees the writing on the wall, you know. And wasn't he the one who was always following social media? If you follow social media of any of these performers and everything, they're living their lives out on social media. While it is it's curated exposure, it still reveals truth, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, that's true. Darius always knows what is going on out there before either Al or Earn. Like they're never really but it's especially Al. Al always seems weirdly removed from what is happening around him, which is so funny to me. Um, that yeah, because like Darius was the one to tell him about the acoustic, the white girl singing rap to guitar. Like he's always telling them, like, yeah, y'all haven't seen that. Like he's always on it. But it also makes me wonder if Darius sees the writing on the wall, and like you said, if Paperboy does what we think that he should do, you don't think that he would seem like a little bit more worried or like be trying to scramble to like, no, don't get rid of me?
I mean,
Or
this
is
is
he
also
just
a guy
taking
that,
on the like fate? Oh well, it's fate.
yeah, he calls himself just riding with destiny, you know. I'm not sure like how much he's willing to exert any force on that destiny. Is he pushing back against it in any way by writing his own ticket and not depending on leeching off of Paperboy, which he's obviously doing right now. But he had always been doing it. I guess it was okay since they were like down in the, I mean, they're in the gutter with each other, like slanging and whatnot, and
But
he's
he
just
was
right.
doing more too, though. Remember, I haven't seen Darius do anything in a while. He was in that house. He looked like, maybe I was just assuming he was cleaning because he was in the kitchen, but he was always like cooking or doing something when he didn't know who was at the door on that one episode where Ern showed up and he had the gun. Like there was some sort of like,
So
I'm trying to protect.
so I just looked up the odd jobs of celebrity entourage members, right? So they can include personal assistant, bodyguard, driver, childcare provider, chef, trainer, social media specialist. So yeah, when Paperboy was young in the game and still slinging, um, Darius was all of those things. You know, we saw him answer the door with a gun. We saw him, going to the shooting range because he wanted to look out after the dogs in the neighborhood. We saw him baking and offering ice cold sliders. We saw him being the bag man with the handcuffed suitcase when they went and did that deal with Migos,
Oh my God. Yeah.
So yeah, he has been all of those things, and I guess they both took it for granted that he would continue to be like the right hand man in every sense of the word, but he wasn't leveling up in his entourage member duties either. Maybe because he didn't quite consider himself a member of Paperboy's entourage, or they were just friends and he was willing to do. I don't know.
Or if there's that other element that we have always wondered about. Because
If
if
they're
there's that element to it, I wouldn't think of myself as that either. I would be like companion. Even if that was no longer happening. There's a way that always changes things. That always muddies it. But I want to go back really quick to something to what you originally said. You were like, how does the hangers on thing work? If so I noticed that Paperboy was getting annoyed at what Darius was doing. But if he is giving Darius money, I could see how he would be annoyed because he's probably wondering, like, what are you doing with your money? Like if I pay you, then how come you can't sometimes pay for some food? But if he's not, then I do wonder, like, what does he think that Darius does? Like, I did have a question about that. Like, I know you're supposed to show, not tell, but I've never even seen them show, like, you're getting annoyed. There must be an expectation that this fool has money. So there must be something happening. And if in fact Earn does authorize a direct deposit of some sort into Darius's account, what is it for?
Yeah.
like what is the, because like if you're annoyed, like if I'm always assuming that you're going to split something and like we're co-workers, your annoyance will come out of the fact of like, bitch, we work together. I know you're getting paid. Why am I always like, you would be annoyed because you know, like,
Yeah.
money. So like, where is this coming from? What is it that he's doing for you? Like, is like, does he get paid to just hang around? And if in fact that is the case, then you can only be mad with yourself. Or if you're not giving him any money, then what you get mad for? If he's allowed to literally just tag along and it's kind of like your kids, like when they need money, you give it to them, then you can't really be mad. So
Yeah. And you've also actually taken him out of his natural habitat, so to speak. It seems like with Darius, maybe Darius does give off those vibes where, you know, he has like really chameleon-like vibes, and so he's able to like, you know, flow with whatever. Yeah, he can, but still, like, you know, there's a difference in being a personal chef for somebody who's living in a townhouse, you know, compared to a personal chef for someone who's a little bit more traveled and aware and, you know, has enjoyed some of like the more lavish delicacies that life has to offer when you have money. So he's not leveling up in his entourage capacity. So then you have to get a new entourage, right? So that begs the question of like, what can we look forward to in season 4? There are certain things that happen as they went to take this Nepalese hallucinogenic space cake or Nepalese
honey, yeah. Or whatever that were made with the honey. I'm like, man, God, Darius.
So that is an actual thing. I included a link in the show notes. Hallucinogenic honey. Why anyone would want to do that and walk the streets of a country that they find suspect.
Didn't that seem so dangerous?
Yeah. But I guess they have free time and money, so they can.
Yeah, that just seemed like, man, y'all are crazy. And I just can't help but think, maybe I'm just too paranoid, but I'm like, Al, you are a celebrity. You're an American celebrity. You are a Black American celebrity. You are way too comfortable for me. For somebody that does not know the meaning of code switching, nor not saying nigga to every living person you come into contact with, you are too damn comfortable. You think like a white man. I'm like, is the whiteness thing happening? Are we supposed to pick that up from this? Because that's what I've been picking up since the beginning.
Oh, just wait till we get to that part. So, anyway, yeah, they earn, like it's like, hey, are you going to do that thing that I'm not supposed to know about for insurance purposes? Which is cool. I love how he's aware, even though he knows he's not supposed to be aware of it. Yeah. He's protecting Paperboy still, you know, even while saying, hey, if this is you, this is what you're gonna do. Like, here's how I can help, you know. So I noted that again. Earn just impressing the hell out of me. He gives
and he's
them
just so even. He's so even with it, but then also highlighting which one of them is in on the stupid shit. Darius. Just no risk, like he's just cool. He's not even like, can you for once just think about how this may harm your gravy train?
Yeah.
That's just, or even just your friend. What if he dies?
Yeah, anything could have happened, you know? And so that's why Earn was like, okay, if they take these drugs, go on this trip, at least I've sent them to a destination. I know where they are. I know that they're doing things that are really nice, that are soothing, you know? So he's just being an all-around great manager, you know? And yeah, Darius, what was he prepared iPod Nanos for them. And it's funny because Alfred's reaction was like, oh, this is cute. Like,
right. He was really touched. And it was like, why? Like, was it because he was like, oh, this is so kitschy? Like Nanos, like that's from a long time ago. like maybe it touched like a nostalgic part in him because he's pretty young. So maybe like when that was out, like I was a full grown adult, but he wasn't. So like maybe it was like, oh,
Maybe it's because I always wanted this and I didn't get a chance to get it. I don't know. Like
I don't know, but best believe Darius knew that it would have that effect.
Yeah. This is where I felt myself like, oh, do I hate Darius now? Because I've spent so much time like, well, not necessarily loving him, but appreciating him, like wanting him to be in every episode.
Yeah.
But the whole thing that he specializes in how to take drugs. Oh, let the coffee melt the center of it. I was just so sickened by that. Because
I know for me, it feels like bullshit, like a little bit of bullshit, like a little bit of like you're just putting this flourish on to kind of like put sugar on your shit.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, it's a little sinister. Like just now, you said specialize in taking drugs, and it reminds me of how like how like everything now is really like niche and specialized and like artisan. Like people turn these like random things into this bullshit art. Like everything's not bullshit art, but it's like if I wanted to right now just declare myself like a pickle specialist, I totally could. And just be like, like just grow like these really tiny cucumbers and then just be like, this one has more of like a mincemeat taste. And like somebody would buy that bullshit. Like, and I could just be like, just like pickles, like you just have to make sure that, you switch it around a little bit. And it's bullshit. Like, so Darius kind of has that, but he's no different from the piranhas that you see around a star that clearly needs help, but they're surrounded by these people who benefit from that person not getting help because they're taking care of themselves, and that person is way more fun when they're high. So they're just giving them drugs. Well, those people look gross and they look monstrous. Darius doesn't, but he's like kind of the same as those people. But he dresses it up with like, he seems like he has this boutique knowledge of drugs. And it's like, oh, he's so whimsical and says weird things like, whatever that weird line was, he said, like, I just ate a persimmon that tastes like an avocado or like vice versa. So he just seems like he's just like this sweet weirdo. But it's like, well, he might be a demon.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it is. He's starting to look scary and manipulative to me because even when he did his destiny thing, his fate thing, it's always annoyed me. But tonight it was just contrived and it was barely concealed. Like it was just like, oh, you're not even trying to hide it. You're just like, all right, I'm gonna do my destiny shit and then you just gonna pay for it. And it was just like, damn, like you don't even care.
Yeah. So I wanted to like touch on that, even though we talked about him getting the nanos. The songs on the nanos were interesting choices too. Yeah, so I have a link in the show notes. Tomita, Isao Tomita. He listens to the planets. I had a chance to listen to this to a little bit of it. It's like you're on another world. I think the first song on the album, The Planet, is Mars. And then it just goes through like a electronic interpretation of existence or experience on those planets. So that's where Darius is traveling when he takes this trip. Meanwhile, he gives Paperboy The Flower Called Nowhere by Stereolab. And it's a song about love. And Stereolab is like this electrono pop group as well, but they are mainly underground. And they went completely solo to avoid being like controlled and manipulated by the industry. So they went independent and released their own music. They took a hiatus for a while. A member died and everything, but I think it was interesting to have him listen to that music. The music was experimental. It was going off in a new direction, not necessarily being the same rap. And I think it was funny that you mentioned like, well, he doesn't sound like anybody. He sounds like a lot of other people, So maybe like, his prior concern about, hey, I haven't been able to be creative in a while. Maybe Wiley was singing his music to him, and what a departure it is from what he normally puts out. Much reminded me of like Outkast. You know, they put out that first album, and then they did like the double album, Love Below and Speaker Box. What a departure! But how nice, you know. And what's the other one? The movie, Idlewild too. Yeah. It's like, yeah, stretch your creative wings. Stretch your creative wings. So all of that sets. All that says so much in just the musical choices. And again, it's like, this is where I see Darius actually, he takes the time to be thoughtful about that stuff, you know? So that's lovable. That's very lovable. But at the same time, like, he's walking ahead of him. This dude is getting high. He's never done this before. They're in a European country. He's not providing any type of bodyguard protection at all. You know,
he acts like I'm just trying to think back, and Darius acts like he doesn't know that racism is a thing. He acts like he doesn't know that, like, that Black endangerment is a thing. And I'm thinking back in the past, like past seasons and past episodes, and trying to see like if he's ever come in contact with it. And I know he's seen, I mean, the very first episode with the gunshot, he's right there for that. And I almost wonder if it's like, yeah, he's familiar with it when it's within the community, but it seems like he feels like, oh, well, we're here, so we're fine. So I'm trying to figure out, or I'm trying to remember, has Darius been in a situation with the crew where they were in danger from white people with racism? Like, and when he was at the gun range, did he feel in danger then, or was he just super mystified about their anger over the dog? Because I was scared for him, but I'm wondering, was Darius scared for him, for himself?
I mean, in any of those situations, because like with a lot of things that happen in with modern displays of racism and prejudice, it's not absolutely obvious to a person who really hasn't had a similar background or similar experience culturally, you know. So whereas
so frustrating,
we recognize dog whistle language all the time, you know, but for someone, because I wouldn't say he's necessarily a newcomer to the American culture. He's not. But, you know, I was having a conversation with my friend just recently. He was born in New York. His parents were from Jamaica. But at home, he was in Jamaica, you know. Even though he was in New York, at home, he was in Jamaica. So he got to be exposed to the same type of culture and sense of self-pride and sense of self-worth that a lot of Jamaicans learn because of their closer proximity to the culture that came from West Africa. And so there's certain ideas and experiences he might not have gotten a chance to learn and master as a youth because of that cultural protection. And it can prove to be a double-edged sword because it could be beneficial in like developing this pride and this strength above that. But it's the same as like not being afraid because you don't know to be afraid.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There's so much like, this is why this season is so great, because this is what we're really dealing with internally within the culture among members of the diaspora. We really are not seeing each other's experiences as we need to. And I think in some cases we're really not even trying to have the patience to see. So he's walking, Paperboy's walking along. He's listening to the music. He sees a couple with the goofy hats on.
Yeah.
then he sees a lesbian couple really making out, and then he sees a black lady and he smiles at her. And I'm just like, oh, were you supposed to go engage with her? Since you've seen all the...
really happy to see her too.
Yeah.
Like, all right, yeah.
And they point out, he's like, yo, they just saw a third black person. And doesn't Darius say there's no black people here? And he's like, this is the third person we just seen. He trips out on the woman on the bike, like kind of, did she wave or she points at him like, hey.
Yeah, but why did he trip out over that so hard? I didn't get that.
He realizes he is famous, right? Or is it?
Okay. Maybe it kind of added to that, like him knowing that he's famous plus that. And then thinking about, I'm realizing this as I'm talking, thinking about where it ends up as far as like the place that he ends up and the concept and what it's called. Maybe it's like, it's all attached to that, like, being famous and maybe some of the things that you might be paranoid about happening to you as a famous person. Maybe that's all tied up into that. I don't know.
Well,
I thought he knew he was famous because that was the whole point of like, why are you leaving me? I need a bodyguard. So I don't know.
Well, so he trips out on the woman on the bike. Then Darius is looking at a dying rat.
Yeah, I think it's dying. Or maybe Al jumped because Al jumps. Like, did he think it was already dead and then he jumped because the rat wasn't dead or the mouse wasn't dead?
It
he had
moved.
An outsized reaction.
Like I think, well, I don't know. Like if I saw what I believe to be a dead rat on the street and it moved, I would kind of trip out a little bit too.
But when we were watching it, because viewers out there, this is the first Rappin episode that we've ever watched together because Nikki is in New Orleans. We watched it together. Yay! And when it happened, you were like, wow, that's a really big reaction to a mouse. But then when I watched it again, I was like, oh, it wasn't moving. And then it jumped because I thought he just screamed at a mouse too. I was like, oh, that's so sweet. He's scared of mice.
Darius walks off without him again. And that's when he proceeds down that street, and you see in the background where those three youth come out into the street and recognize who he is and pursues him. And again, we're reminded of that episode in season 2. What was it called?
The Woods. It's called The Woods. Yeah. Because that's the one where he ends up in the woods, where everybody was talking about the character named that was also named Wiley, which I had to go back and check that because I had a chance to.
These boys feel even more ominous than the young men in Atlanta. They made you feel even more ominous by, after they couldn't find Alfred, then they grab a baby out of a bassinet and sling it. And it just reminded me of that series on Amazon Prime. God, what was the name of that series with the black family?
It was called Them, because I thought they were picking with Jordan Peele. I thought it was going to be like a comedy. I was like, is this because of Us? Is this real? Why is that called Them? You didn't think that was the first thing I thought about. Like, I didn't call you up and say something. The first time I saw that, I was like, are these people that Jordan Peele went to film school with? Are they his rivals? What is this? It's
like, oh, you come out with us, nigga? Well, we gonna come out with them.
That's what it felt like. It was like, oh, nigga, we the ones that, remember we was doing our thesis and we came up with like race-based horror, but then you just beat us to the punch. Well, you did us, we gonna do them. They were more terrifying to me than the teenagers that we see in the second season, which, if I remember correctly, did they beat Al up? I don't think they pulled a gun, or they robbed him.
They did hit him. He did.
Like there was some physical,
like a physical altercation with them.
But then they robbed him, right?
I believe they took his jewelry.
That was Robin season. That whole thing was Robin season.
I'm guessing I'm taking it for granted because now I'm thinking about the rash of crime among youth in both Atlanta and New Orleans that's happening right now, and those kids don't have to be doing what they're doing. So it could be that boys in Atlanta did not have to be doing what they're doing, to survive. But I automatically am willing to extend them more grace because of that thought that they might be struggling. I did not feel the same need to extend any grace to these boys in Amsterdam. They're obviously going to some sort of prep school because of they've got on school uniforms, and they're going to antagonize a baby.
What I thought was terrifying, obviously, that it was a baby, but it was the way that they were running after Paperboy. It didn't seem like it was going to be a regular, like, oh my God, I'm such a fan. Like, I just, I want a picture. I want an autograph. They seemed like they literally wanted like a piece of him. But then just when they lost sight of him, how they just needed to do something. And they just seemed like desperate and like it just needed to spew somewhere. That's what was scary to me. That like
that's just like that white boy at the concert. Remember when Ern said, "Hey, Paperboy's not doing the show," and he couldn't find Ernest to beat him up, so he just beat the other guy.
It's like a rage. Like it just has to go somewhere. So it was like, and it wasn't even a 1-to-1. Like, okay, you couldn't find Paperboy, so then maybe there's just another dude walking, so then maybe you just beat and rob him. You go to like, okay, I couldn't get this, not that I wanted Al to get beat, but like I couldn't get to this celebrity, this man. Here's this woman, this mother talking to an old lady. She got a baby carriage. I'm gonna get this baby. What? Like, so you just need to press flesh some kind of way? Yeah. Like an animal? Like, it doesn't matter. I just need something that's living to not be. It was just weird. Like, and just scary. Like they were literal, just like a pack of dogs.
Alfred ducks into a museum and he unwittingly happens upon an performance art. This woman is crying and he really, truly looks like he wants to help.
He's so concerned. He tells her to blink twice.
She's so
she's like, what? And then she's like, and he's like, oh. And he takes it as, oh, okay. He immediately thinks he's in the third act of an action movie.
She's just laying on a bed, just crying. And it's like, what you think wrong with that bitch? Like, just let it be.
There's so many things like, Alfred, if somebody was holding her here, there are no barriers anywhere. Also, I'd wonder if you're being held, why don't you get up and walk?
Yeah, you just got into the motherfucker so easily. Like, you think she couldn't get out?
Right. Yeah, why won't she come this way? Also, if it's that horrible and she can't just get up and walk, what's about to happen to you?
Yeah.
You get high and you walk around in Europe. Just, you don't have your senses about you. You're in the middle of a sea of white people and you're at a disadvantage and you just walk around. You get mildly angry at your friend for leaving you high and not at your best. You're like, hey, come back. Oh, well. And you just walk around. I don't understand it.
He's looking at all of the artwork. It includes, just regular run-of-the-mill pictures on the wall, and then also like humans who are interacting. Some woman playing the violin in that weird pose with her foot up.
I thought she had a saxophone.
Was it a saxophone?
What, a saxophone with her toe pointed? It made me so angry.
Yeah, I don't know why her toe is playing like that. I forget what instrument she's playing, but I'm just like, why?
A saxophone.
Okay. Then we see Lorraine's character says something like, I hate your hat.
She said, that hat is dumb.
Yes.
It just was shaped stupid for him. he looked like he was dressing that way because he's a celebrity now. It just looked weird.
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't
and she
think it
kind of
was
said
flattering
that
at
she was
all.
like, "This is making you stand out like a celebrity." It was like like how some celebrities, where it just seems like you wearing this because you're a celebrity. Like celebrities can do things like, I'm wearing this chicken box on my head, and people would be like, "Oh, chic," because like, oh, you're doing something new. Like when Pharrell started wearing that man with the yellow hat.
Yeah,
And it was just like, oh, it's Pharrell.
I just thought he could prevent forest fires now. Like it was
he
very
looked like he should also
signals.
start traveling with a monkey named George. Curious
Yeah,
George.
he did. The man in yellow. He looked like the man in yellow.
Yeah, that's what I said. The man in the yellow hat. That's what he was wearing. But that's what when Pharrell started wearing that, it was like, what is he doing? And it's like, oh, he's just doing that celebrity thing where this is what I'm doing now. And that's what I got off of Al, because Al doesn't dress in that way. And it just seemed like he's like, oh, I'm a celebrity now and I'm in Europe. So I'm just gonna do this. The color didn't bother me at all. It was just, I don't think you would wear that hat, which is why I said last night, why don't you just put on a skull cap? Like, that's what you do. Not because you're a stereotype, but that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah, big black nigga put on a skull cap. They look good in them.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
They do. I love it.
This is symbolism happening. He is fully inside of this trip. So he's walked into a building where everything is on display. Everything is up for being critiqued, criticized, evaluated, assessed, analyzed, and all of that. Not just the art on the wall, but the actual people itself. And Lorraine at this point feels to me like a representation of media, not just an extension of Paperboy's subconscious, but just like media. And the things that she says, I'm always watching everything. I see you in the designer suits. I've had so many rappers, like I'm so tired of them, hate them. How she starts talking about the other people that she sees. There is when she says, oh, look at that, looking like the white Lizzo. I guess the real Lizzo is the white Lizzo. So I Googled white Lizzo, and there is a person named the real white Lizzo. You have to see this.
Why is that person called that?
I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Why did that person call themselves that? Or do they call themselves that?
Just go look.
I don't want to.
You have to.
This sounds disrespectful.
It is disrespectful.
Real white Lizzo, get ready. Oh God, this person has music?
So there's music. The person that Lorraine did point out.
Sorry.
In the museum did look like the real white Lizzo if they were describing this person. Then she says hype beat F word, hype beast, excuse me, not hype beat.
Yeah. She's even posed like Lizzo. Like sitting with no clothes on. And there's a comment from somebody that just says, a
hype beast is a person who no one actually likes. So they dress, they wear streetwear in order to appear cooler so they can look like they need to be liked.
Okay.
Yeah, so he says hype beast F words, so these are people, yeah. And I've met a couple of people like that. I have. But again, this whole thing, when she tells him to take off the hat, the stupid purple hat, and puts on the goofy hat, I feel like it's a representation of him changing his mind. He changes his hat, he changes his mind and perception of things. He goes outside the museum, day becomes night. And then he tells him, we only get a little bit of sunlight. And I feel like
that sense of awareness, that sense of intuition that we a lot of times ignore when we should be like really stopping and going within and evaluating and assessing and using our mind's eye to tackle situations. I think in the grand scheme of things, it does only get a little bit of sunlight. She advises him, to put on the hat, become what you fear, less attitude, put it on, take my hand, let's go. Let's go deep into ourselves and really get at what our issue is, with our existence. Then what happens? They go into the cancel club. We find out that this is the cancel club.
Yes, they go into the cancel club, and as they're going up the stairs, we meet Lorraine is the person. We meet her and her two friends. I don't know if we get names on them. I don't remember if we got names, but
one likes to do a leap and the other one wants to sit on the baby's face
after he shaves the little mustache.
Yeah,
it's disturbing, but anyway, yeah. So she introduces him as New Jazz, which when I first heard that, I was like, so was the ex name Jazz? And then I was like, oh, it's like new jazz. Okay. Like when I turned the captions on, it was described as New Jazz, and I took it as the term New Jazz because they were like, oh, well, what's this one's name? And then we find out later when they're talking, they're like, oh, all the rappers come here. Like they all fuck her, they call her apartment 106 in Park, which was kind of funny. But he seems kind of like he doesn't like it when he's called New Jazz, because the way they kind of crack up in his face and kind of rudely have the conversation with her, like, oh my God, I can't believe you're calling them that in front of him, and they're just not explaining it. And he obviously sees like, okay, there's something with this, like they're laughing at me. He's kind of instantly turned off by them, especially when she says, when he tells him that he's a rapper, and then the girl says like, oh my God, do you know Dua Lipa? Protect her. That was funny, like how she said it. It was, she didn't say why Dua Lipa needed protecting, but it was just funny, which you mentioned that Lorraine sounded like media. She just sounded like Twitter. It was just like, protect her. And I was just like, okay, of course. And then that's when the other guy lets us know that, oh, I love the baby. And the mustache and the sitting on the face comment. So they were interesting and kind of put offish. And then they ordered drinks, and we learned that a white Hennessy is Chris Evans, is it?
Yeah.
Which was so random. And then they're told that their drinks have been paid for by these two people sitting at another table, and they're toasted by a dude in the tux and another person dressed as a Dalmatian. I don't know what the significance of that is. If it was just supposed to add to the weirdness of I am high, and also there are molds of different mouths on the wall, like maybe 9 to 12 of them, of different, like there's somewhere it's like an imprint of like tongue and teeth, and then tongue sticking out. It just reminded me of like, are these slave mouths being inspected? This looks like when somebody's like, all right, lift your tongue up, okay, down, okay, back, okay, let me see them teeth. It just made me think of back into the left, back into the left, back into the left. That's all I thought about every time I saw those. Anyway.
Right. I just thought about the phrase. Yeah, I remember that from JFK. I just thought about the phrase lip service,
Ew. So not the assassination of JFK, no.
How he orders his drink, it gets confirmed, Lorraine disappears. They show him sitting, those people say all that stuff, and they show him sitting next to the mouths, and he doesn't get his drink. It was all lip service. So, yeah, then what happens? Does he walk down the stairs, orders his drink again, then sits down next to Liam Neeson?
He walked down the stairs? I thought he just went across the room. He went downstairs?
Did he go downstairs? He moves from wherever he was.
He no longer with that moves couple. Away from them, because afterwards, that's when they start saying, so are y'all fucking? And he's like, no. And they're like, come on, like every rapper does. It's okay. It's nothing to be ashamed about. And so then thinking about, who that actress is, And you know, I guess with the club being called the Cancel Club, and like every rapper does, I guess it's the thing of like, oh, if that were something that was to come out about a rapper, they would be canceled, or at least like, you know, lose their fame or lose their respect in that circle, which makes me think again about who is Al, you know, like who is the real Alfred. uh it just made me think like, is this kind of a thing, like is this something that he's worried about? We've already discussed in the other episode about like whether or not he's actually doing or operating in his life as who he really wants to be, or at least
Or is he
like,
actively doing things to get himself canceled, like, you know, going and cutting down a rich old white dude's tree? Because
well, that, but like we even talked about like, is he doing what he wants to do? Like wanting to be a rapper, but then like, let's take it a step further. Wanting to be a rapper, but then like, are you living the way you want to live? Like just as a person, which being a rapper does also bleed into like how you are also supposed to live, more so than a lot of other professions, because there's a whole image. So that just made me wonder. I'm thinking about the conversations that we've had before about Darius, the relationship there, and you know, because like, you know, you said that actress is from Pose, and so it just made me wonder like the choice of that particular person, the whole conversation about like, it's okay, she always brings rappers, you know, we call her 106 in Park, that really offended him. That's what made him not want to sit by them anymore. You know, and then he's in the Cancel Club. That is definitely something that would get you canceled. Maybe it would probably be a little bit different from how it would have been a couple of years ago, because now things are, I'm not saying it would be easy for him, but there's definitely at least a conversation now where he would probably find an audience. It would just be way smaller than it was before.
Yeah.
But it would still be different, and he doesn't want that kind of thing.
We always hear about rappers getting shot and killed. So, like it or not, that is a form of cancellation. The ones who end up going to prison, you know, whether or not they can successfully rehabilitate their careers after they do their stints, I don't know. Not all of them are Tupac.
Right.
You know, so I'm wondering, do all rappers truly end up in the Cancel Club sooner or later? So then that's when he runs into Liam Neeson. And it's interesting how you were saying that he is not, we've talked about this before, how he's not one to code switch. He starts to call Liam Neeson a nigga and then doesn't. And I'm just like, really?
That, he has
like, why
like reverence kind of. Yeah. Like, what is it about this dude? You know? But
so
doesn't that make sense though? Like Al is starting to get turned a little bit by the fame. You and I both separately have made comments about his decisions. You a couple of episodes ago, or maybe like the last episode, is like, why is he doing the things that he's doing? Not the things to get canceled, but like, why is he trusting the things that he's trusting? And it was like, because he wants to be famous. Like, remember, like outside of him having a point about the spook who sat by the door, like they always kill the people that do this, he was worried about the clothes and like and how it looked. And so that is a part of it. He's just not being smart with like, you want this fame and you're putting like this premium on these things, but for the stuff that really matters, like true wealth and having control, like lasting control of your legacy and things like that, you're not thinking about that. Well, we see a turn now that he is starting to think about that. He was like looking at the superficial things. He wasn't looking at it, and then making fun of Earn, who was kind of like trying to get him there. I think the end of tonight marks a possible switch in that, but we were just pondering that, like, what's wrong with you?
Liam Neeson talks about how he got canceled, you know, but then he also says like, yeah, I'm mad at Black people because you almost ruined my fucking career.
Yeah, we did, because of what he said about us. But he wouldn't have said that if we hadn't existed, basically. Like, I can't stand a lot of you, you know? Like, so he, like, that's basically like what he's saying. You know, he was upset about a friend who had been raped, and he made that comment about Black people. And so, you know, Al is listening, you know, and then he's just like, you know, I'm just glad. Like, he's basically just assuming that Liam needs to learn from it. He's like, I'm just glad that he said something like, you weren't violent, or like basically talking about all Black people or whatever. And he's like, oh no, I still can't stand a lot of you. You know, you almost fucking ruined my career. Bless you. Which almost made me like want to crack up, because Al was not expecting that. And so he's like, all right. And then he has a nerve to kind of like, you know, give him a pound. And it's like, so it made me wonder, so is Liam Neeson in that moment not considering Paperboy to be Black because he knows him and recognizes him as a fellow celebrity? Because he says all that about Black people, even though he said, I can't stand a lot of you. He's like, all right, mate. And Liam Neeson says, well, that's the best and worst thing about being white. Like, I don't have to learn anything. And
you don't have to learn anything you don't want to.
Right.
So it's, for me, I was just like, okay, what does achieving whiteness mean? And this has been another consistent theme throughout season 3, starting with that man in the boat in 3 Slaps, talking about they were almost white, you know.
Earnest, yeah.
The other commentary about being canceled, because Liam Neeson leaves, and then he's sitting there, you know, contemplating the conversation. And then the announcer comes on stage, the master of ceremony comes on stage and gets ready to announce Paperboy coming up to the stage to perform. And Lorraine says, yeah, they would have made you perform. So it just reminded me, being canceled does force.
Hey guys, so we're having technical difficulties. So he bought a ticket and flew down here to New Orleans because we are dedicated to you mofos. So picking up from the conversation where we were, it's only like an hour, so it's okay. I just sat right here and didn't eat or did anything until she got here. Mm-hmm. I'm dedicated. And dedicated.
Mm-hmm. The whole thing about being canceled is it forces you to perform in some sort of way, right?
Yes.
Either you are performing in reaction to the cancellation and making amends for whatever sin you committed in order to be canceled, or you are performing in order to prevent cancellation.
Right.
Except for if you're a rap guy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a rap guy, you have a narrow area in which to move before you're canceled, because you're already, as you said, on the fringe.
You're already bad.
Yeah, of what's acceptable.
Yeah, unless you're like an after school special rapper, like you only rap about like don't do drugs. Like you got your job and you were hired by like the Department of Education. Like you're that kind of rapper, like for a specific thing. Those are the kind of rappers that like probably wouldn't get canceled unless they like did something terrible. You have to have a certain kind of image. So
yeah, definitely couldn't be found out that he's molesting kids. That would be really bad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That got dark quick.
Yeah. So as Lorraine, as Paperboy is storming out, you know, after this cancel club experience, he runs back into Lorraine. She magically appears. And she's telling him the truth that he needs to hear. You know, you need to be told what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And if you don't understand what you need to hear, then you're white.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm just like, those are the worst. He's protesting. He doesn't want to wrap his head around this. So she's like, you don't work. You shut down. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's really what will happen to him if he doesn't get his shit together. He will cease to be. This dream will stop. And then so we see that the story has wrapped itself around itself, and we're faced with this this contemplation of how time really works. Because Paperboy becomes the tourist that he passed by at the beginning of the episode, where Darius tells him, don't be that
guy.
And he is that guy.
But it's interesting that it's Darius that's telling him not to be that guy.
Yeah.
And it's the guy, if you remember at the beginning, when they look over and we see somebody in a goofy hat that looks like they're like wigging out or like just like they're tweaking or something, but it just looks like that dude is not in a good way. And I mean, I remember seeing that and think you were saying that when you saw it, you were like, oh, you had an inkling.
Because you didn't see his face at all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I knew, okay, that's going to be connected to him some kind of way. And then Darius had already kind of creeped me out. Like I didn't like him. And I was just thinking like, is Darius going to kill Al? I always went to the extremes. I was like, oh my God, Darius is going to murder Al. He's going to be that guy because that's him dying on the side of the road at Darius's hand. That wasn't it. But maybe it was almost, I don't know. It's all how you guys interpret it, right?
Yeah, right.
That totally could have been.
It could have been.
But yeah.
Before he goes into this paralyzed stupor, he's asking Lorraine, who are you? What do you want? And I think those are questions that he's really, truly trying to grapple with within himself. Lorraine has to be an aspect of his subconscious. His mom, that we learn her name is Lorraine, or we're reminded that her name is Lorraine. When he wakes up in the hotel to find that Ern has taken care of him. Ern actually says, actually, this ended up being better than you going to the spa. They found him right near,
on the street.
Yeah.
He was on the street. We need to clap that out. He was on the street.
Yeah, he was passed out on the street.
A celebrity. What gold on? Yeah. I'm more than sure that he didn't get that from the bubblegum machine, y'all. It was real gold. I like this. I'm sitting like right here. So that was crazy. So can you imagine like this is my client, like a celebrity on the street. Can you imagine Beyonce's people taking care of her? Can you imagine if Beyonce was on the street? Like, do you see how your face hard and you're not in the beehive, but you were like, what? If she was just on the street, like that would just be crazy. Like nobody would do that. If you are a manager, nobody would do that. And so, like, can you imagine what Ern, when they saw that, it makes me wonder. I'm very curious when they go back to them, because I don't think that we're going to see them next week.
No.
But like when they go back to them, what decisions would have been made? And if Al is going to make the decision, because that's his friend, or if Ern is going to like really be in his job.
Yeah.
Because Ern has that, this is what I like about Ern. Because of his disposition, he can have that job forever because he doesn't get emotional.
Yeah.
And I could see him being like, I left him with you.
And I found him on the street, passed out, susceptible, completely vulnerable to any type of attack, robbery, murder, what have you. Anything could happen. And you left him on the street with a fucking iPad Nano.
Nice touch. And if that is followed by, you will find in your account the last of the whatevers.
Yeah.
And a car waiting for you.
Mm-hmm.
I could see him disappearing just as smoothly as socks. That also makes me wonder that if he is in possession of information pertaining to Van around the same time, if more would happen to him after that. We're wondering. This is just a question for those of you who engage with us on YouTube, and if you're not, start to. Y'all think that
Darius and Van is fucking? Because we do. Yeah, like there's both sides of this color thing, this race thing.
It's always on us.
If we're gonna talk about what blackness is and isn't, let's also talk about what whiteness is and isn't. So I really appreciate this season daring to dive into that, But will it beg the question of what blackness actually is in a more obvious way? Because I think all throughout the show, we're looking at blackness is happening to all of our Black characters, and then every other Black person that we're seeing interact with them or be a part of the show. So I don't know, like I would love to see that. I would love to see them delve into that.
Maybe next season.
He's in the bed. He's been cleaned up, because apparently he vomited on himself. So he's been cleaned up. His clothes has been changed. He's got room temperature water on the nightstand next to him.
Which is important for digestion.
Yes.
Things a lot.
Hydration is key. And then he asked the question about masters. So
because Lorraine, that's something I don't think he
Yeah.
said it. Lorraine, after one of her many reads, was just like, well, she actually said the thing about money earlier when she was just kind of, when you said that she was kind of like being sort of like the media, she's just like hopping from one thing to the other, which is kind of like
how your mind
clips of
works.
like the media, sort of like different things. And so she was just like, rappers never know where their money is, you know, like y'all look cute, but you don't know anything about your money. And then later, when he's like, who are you and like what do you want? And she's like, who owns your masters? And that's something that you can tell, like, man, Al has no knowledge of the business side of his business. And you know, you could tell he was just like, what? And she's like, the masters, like who owns like the masters, like that controls later recordings of your music. It controls like what can be done with your music forever. And he didn't know. And so that's heavy on his mind. And we know that this is his trip. So this is, he's starting to think. If he wasn't awake to this stuff before, he's thinking of it now. So that's like that's the one thing that he asks her after he says, like, nigga, did you change my clothes? And he's like, who owns my masters?
We know that, I think her mentioning that is a clearer evidence that she represents his subconscious. And so, because he does obviously have an awareness of what masters are, but like you said, he didn't understand what's going on with his finances. And then the fact that he says your family is handling your finances, where there's a mistrust for family, or there's this notion that, you know, if you just getting blood to do it, you're just saving a buck.
Like he's feeling stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your friends are freeloading off of you. He's seeing Darius for what's going on. Is he really your friend and whatnot?
His cousin
had his
was
back.
Looking out for, and I was worried for a second because when Ern said, huh, I was like, please don't let this be that kind of huh that you say when you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
But it was mostly probably he was like, why is he asking about this like right now? He was like, wait, what?
Or maybe he was surprised that he was asking about it because he's never asked about those details of the business before.
But it's like, man, Ern really has his family's
best interest at heart.
Best interest at heart.
He genuinely does.
And now I am completely, I'm not going to, I won't doubt him.
If Alfred was on the fence, or if he had any concerns about his ability to trust his blood, you know, those should have been all eradicated at this point, because this man had everything he needed. He was safe. He woke up safe and in bed, not in some crazy museum or with some random person being molested in any kind of way. He was in bed in a very luxurious room. You see how high them ceilings were?
Yeah, I ain't seen them in the low ceilings yet this season.
And then Ern said, I'll be back in an hour to check on you.
Yeah.
So
he's text me if you need anything.
Yes.
I was like, I want to go.
1000%.
Just safe.
Where is Darius? We ain't seen Darius since
he's on another planet.
It's like,
I don't know. That's what I was saying. Has Darius been fired? He said you've been asleep for 10 hours. You know how much Ern could have taken care of and done in 10 hours? Yeah. You made a comment back on in the premiere, the second half of the premiere, when I was saying like, I was saying something about Ern, and you were like, I don't know, look at how much he's handled. Because remember when he got up in the chick's room and he was like, do you speak English? And then he was, he got the text messages from Van and realized, and you were like, he got the car, he did such and such, he, you know, blah, 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 blah. 10 hours?
Yeah.
He could have located Darius, made him sign separation papers, set up a fucking cloud for the phone. I was surprised that he didn't already secretly have one that Al didn't know about. I'm like, whatever, nigga, your stuff has been backed up.
Yeah.
I don't know why he didn't like already have that. I feel like Ern has been kind of out of respect, been respecting their friendship because it's been there. But I think now he's like, and this is the fuck up that I needed.
Okay. Mystical elements.
Mine was seeing the dude wigging out in the goofy hat and the blanket, and then Al seeing it, and then by the end of the episode, like it's like he's seeing himself, like just that loop in time.
Okay. Yes. Lorraine popping in and out of his experience, and then also the whole cancel club thing. There's not a real cancel club that you go to. No, that's a magical place. Yes.
Mm-mm.
Okay. SGR.
When she told him, like, having people around you that tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to hear, like, that makes you white. Basically just being a lot, like, having people enable you to be willfully ignorant. That is what whiteness is, being willfully ignorant. And for every person that has been in a social media fueled argument where some dumbass comes in and says, to play devil's advocate, or says something that wants you to explain the issue to them, like they're pretending like they don't know, to be willfully ignorant. You know, like you're just pretending like you don't know what it is because you want to either hear my argument or just see me get riled up, or just you can just say, well, I'm not political, so that's what whiteness is. So
I would add when Alfred wakes up into the hotel, like, because I think he's been living in this pretend play, make-believe world that his life could just remain the same, except he has this money and fame and nothing else changes. But when he woke up from his trip and Ern was taking care of him, I believe that he realized the reality of the situation, what's actually happening in his life, what's affording him all these conveniences and luxuries that he's now experiencing.
And when Socks takes the phone, remember how Al is just kind of sitting in the room after meeting the little Make-A-Wish kid, and he's like, dang, Ern, like, you know, it's just all business with you. And it's like, yeah, Al, your business, and Ern's busy.
Yeah.
And Al is just kind of has an attitude because Ern is just all about business, and like he just wants to chill, and it's almost like he wants Ern to sort of feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
And like you said, like he just gets to, it's like he's in a fantasy world. It's like you're literally on tour right now, sitting in your green room because of this dude.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know if it's before or after we see Ern handling everything, including the things that like haven't been handled, but that's what he's busy doing, you know? And so Ern is half paying attention, but it's because he is engrossed in all things that are connected to you, nigga. And he's just like,
him.
Man, like it just seems like lately everything is work. And so you're saying that, and Ern is like, yeah. And then just keeps doing his work. Meanwhile, you don't notice that this fool that you've allowed to be on your tour is stealing your phone and doing whatever, you know, who knows what, and allowed to steal your phone because your constant companion has allowed him to infiltrate your very loose inner circle. So it's completely opposite. Like now we see him with Ern, who again is like on the job, as attentive as ever. And I think that now he'll see it. I hope that now he will see it.
You still got some long ass eyelashes. Like I've always known this about you, but like now I'm sitting here looking at them.
Well, I also put mascara on, so
yeah, but they're long as hell. They're not just like serious.
Sometimes God gives us both hands, you guys.
That's the show.
Thank you for watching. Rappin' Atlanta is recorded and produced by Nita Sharice and Nikki Ebro. Our theme music is Joy Clark's Galaxy Groove, performed by Joy Clark. Discover more about this talented artist at joyclarkmusic.com. Rappin' Atlanta's artwork is created by Prime Vice Studios. Learn more about this intellectual property development agency at primevice.com. You can find us on your favorite podcast player as well as YouTube. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and follow Rappin' Atlanta on Twitter and Instagram at Rappin' Atlanta.